GMNA uses artificial intelligence for generated speech, visuals, and production. AI-generated content may contain errors. Please verify important information before making decisions or taking action. Live from the GMNA News Center, this is the Lunch Break News Hour.
Good afternoon, Montreal. Our top story today highlights the Montreal Brain Bank, now housing 3,800 specimens advancing neuro research. Traffic snarled from the SDM strike, though roadways remain clear elsewhere, and the Franco's Festival kicks off 10 free concerts this week. Over to you, Jeff.
The Franco's Festival will host 10 free concerts across Montreal from June 12 through June 20, featuring local and international francophone artists.
Concerts will take place at 5 city venues, including Place des Arts, Parc Jean Drapeau, and the historic St. Joseph's Oratory, each scheduled for evening performances.
Admission is free for all ages, and the festival encourages attendees to explore nearby food trucks and cultural exhibitions that will operate throughout the concert evenings.
All right, let's get into it. Today's top story highlights the Montreal Brain Bank preserving 3,800 specimens to advance neurological research across Canada. Hear what's shaping our city today, from the Downtown Council vote to the latest health breakthrough, and what it means for you.
Today, the Montreal Brain Bank announced it now holds 3,800 human specimens, the largest collection of its kind in Canada. Researchers say the repository will support studies of neurodegenerative illnesses such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, as well as psychiatric conditions including suicide and major depression. The specimens, donated by families and hospitals across the province, are stored under strict ethical protocols and cataloged for use by neuroscientists nationwide. By centralizing tissue that would otherwise be scattered, the bank aims to accelerate discovery of disease mechanisms and potential therapies. Funding for the facility comes from provincial health agencies and federal research grants, ensuring long-term sustainability. Scientists stress that access to such a breadth of material is essential for reproducible experiments and for training the next generation of neurologists.
Today in Montreal, Canada's new Commissioner of Official Languages, Kelly Burke, announced her strategy for safeguarding both French and English across the province. Speaking with CBC Montreal's Peter Tardif, Burke said the bilingual framework obliges the government to protect the French majority while also ensuring the vitality of Anglophone communities. She outlined a series of measures, including stronger support for French language education, increased funding for English language services, and a joint oversight panel to monitor compliance. Burke emphasized that preserving French does not mean marginalizing English speakers, and that both languages are essential to Quebec's cultural fabric. The commissioner urged provincial and federal partners to work collaboratively, noting that balanced language policies will reinforce social cohesion and economic opportunity throughout the region. She highlighted that language equity underpins Quebec's identity and its role within the broader Canadian mosaic.
Road safety officials released Quebec's 2025 traffic report, showing a modest drop in deaths on provincial highways, while the tally of people injured or otherwise involved in collisions rose sharply. The agency recorded 24 fewer fatalities than in 2024, bringing the total down to 129 deaths. By contrast, the number of accident victims climbed to over 5,000, up by roughly 8% from the previous year. Officials attribute the lower death count to increased seat belt compliance and expanded emergency response times, but they warn that the surge in injuries signals lingering hazards such as distracted driving and speeding. The ministry plans to intensify public awareness campaigns and consider stricter enforcement measures in the coming months. The findings were presented at a press conference in Quebec City on Monday, where Transport Minister Marie-Claude Boissachar emphasized the need for continued vigilance.
More than 100 people died in Quebec last year after collisions with heavy trucks or other large vehicles, the Provincial Safety Agency reported. The tally marks the first time in 16 years that heavy vehicle fatalities have exceeded the 100 mark. Officials said the deaths occurred across the province, affecting passengers, cyclists, and pedestrians alike. The data shows a rise in severe incidents linked to oversized commercial traffic, prompting calls for stricter weight and speed enforcement. The Ministry of Transport confirmed the crashes happened on both rural routes and busy city thoroughfares. A provincial task force on heavy vehicle safety will meet next month to examine the findings and suggest policy changes. Researchers note the upward trend coincides with expanding freight activity across the province. Families of the victims have been encouraged to access counseling services offered by local health agencies.
The Provincial Council of Ministers announced today that Quebec's national suicide prevention strategy has been extended through 2 more years, ending in 2028. The renewal maintains the current budget of $15 million per year, ensuring that existing prevention programs, crisis line services, and community outreach initiatives will continue without interruption. The original strategy, launched several years ago, was credited with expanding access to mental health resources across the province. Officials said the additional funding will support training for first responders, school-based awareness campaigns, and the development of data collection tools to monitor trends. No changes to the program's core objectives were reported. The extension reflects the government's ongoing commitment to reduce suicide rates and to provide consistent support for individuals at risk throughout Quebec. Implementation will be overseen by the Ministry of Health and Social Services, which will release annual progress reports beginning next fiscal year.
Later we'll look at the escaped marsupial roaming Montreal's South Shore and what it means for wildlife trafficking. Plus more, we will be right back.
Watch the local sunset tonight at 6 p.m. for all your local Montreal news.
Welcome back, folks. Thanks for staying with us. Up next, Jeff Laflamme brings the latest local stories you need to hear.
Authorities confirmed that a small marsupial has been seen wandering the south shore of Montreal over the past few days, according to reports filed on June 15. Animal rights groups say the creature most likely fled an illegal captive situation, prompting the Quebec Environment Ministry to launch an investigation. Officials noted that the animal's appearance underscores ongoing concerns about wildlife trafficking in the province, where the illicit trade of exotic species remains a persistent problem. The ministry is coordinating with local shelters and wildlife experts to locate the marsupial and determine its health status. Advocates warn that escaped animals can suffer stress and may pose a risk to native ecosystems if not recovered promptly. Field teams are deploying motion-activated cameras along likely routes, and officials have asked the public to report sightings. The case follows recent reports of exotic pets vanishing from private collections, prompting tighter customs checks on wildlife imports.
Franco's de Montreal kicks off its 37th edition with a week of free music across the city. Starting on June 12th and running through June 20th, the festival will present 10 outdoor concerts, each highlighting francophone artists from Quebec and beyond. All shows are open to the public, no tickets required, and will take place in parks, plazas, and community venues throughout the island. Organizers hope the lineup will draw families, students, and anyone looking for a lively summer soundtrack. The free concerts complement the broader program of workshops, dance performances, and food markets that usually accompany the festival. With the city streets buzzing with live sound, locals can enjoy a cultural celebration right on their doorstep without spending a dime. Kids can splash in nearby fountains while couples stroll, making each venue feel like a neighborhood block party.
An investigation by the Bureau de l'Inspecteur Général has determined that an Italian water equipment supplier was improperly favored in the contract to refurbish the pool at Centre Claude Rabia. The probe found that a privileged contact inside the engineering consulting firm overseeing the project influenced the tender documents, shaping the specifications to benefit the supplier. As a result, the contract was awarded despite the lack of a fair competitive process. The Inspector General's report, released June 15, cites alleged procurement misconduct and recommends further review of the tendering procedures. The renovation, slated to modernize the public pool, now faces scrutiny that could delay work and affect the schedule for residents who rely on the facility for recreation and training. Authorities are examining the role of the consulting firm and the supplier in the alleged irregularities.
Today marks the 30th anniversary of the Petite Train du Nord, the trail that turned an old railway into a favorite summer bike route and winter ski corridor in the Laurentians. Since its conversion, the path has drawn families, commuters, and adventure seekers who enjoy a smooth, scenic stretch that links towns and forests. Local businesses have reported a steady stream of visitors during weekends, and schools often organize field trips along the route to teach about sustainable transport and regional history. Organizers plan a series of rides and snowshoe gatherings on June 15th to celebrate the milestone, with Andy Bennett, a longtime volunteer, leading the festivities. The celebration underscores how a simple rail line, repurposed 3 decades ago, continues to shape everyday recreation and tourism across the region locally.
Porter Airlines began commercial passenger service from the newly renovated Montreal Metropolitan Airport on the South Shore on Monday, June 15. The terminal, which just finished a multi-million-dollar overhaul, now offers 2 additional gates, upgraded baggage handling, and a larger check-in area designed to ease morning rushes. The airline's first flight, a regional jet to a major hub, carried roughly 150 passengers, marking the first scheduled airline departure from the facility since its closure for construction 2 years ago. Airport officials said the renovation adds a dedicated customs hall, preparing the site for future international routes, and they expect daily traffic to rise as businesses on the South Shore tap the new connectivity. Porter's entry also restores a commercial link that had been missing from the region's air network for several years.
Now let's turn to the weather team for a quick look at this afternoon's conditions. Here's a quick look at what Montreal's weather holds for your afternoon plans today, and any surprises. On June 16th, the city has seen 2 extremes. The all-time high of 28 degrees was recorded in 2020, during a lingering heat wave that pushed the whole province into record territory. By contrast, the coldest reading of 9.4 degrees came in 2024, when an unexpected Arctic dip slipped south and left Montreal shivering for a few hours. Normally, June's climate normals sit around 21 degrees for the high and 13 for the low, so today's temperatures sit comfortably between those historic marks. Right now at noon, we have a clear sky with a gentle breeze from the west-southwest at 7 kilometers per hour, humidity sitting at 71% and a comfortable 16 degrees. Temperatures will climb to 20 degrees by the hour and keep rising, reaching 23 degrees this afternoon and holding steady into the evening. The sky will stay mostly clear, only a thin veil of clouds will appear after sunset. UV index is 7, so a hat and sunscreen are wise if you'll be outdoors. The strongest wind gusts will top at 17 kilometers per hour from the southwest, well below any concern. No weather alerts are in effect, and will now shift to the 5-day outlook. Wednesday feels cooler with a high of 24 and a low of 14. Overcast skies bring an 80% chance of rain, so an umbrella is wise. Thursday stays in the low 20s, 22 up and 17 down, and clouds thicken for an 85% rain risk, the wettest of the period. Friday holds the same high of 22 but a low of 16, and the rain chance falls to 50%, offering a better chance for dry afternoon plans. Saturday cools to a high of 19 and a low of 14, overcast with another 50% chance of showers. Sunday finally clears, remaining mainly clear with a high of 19, low of 14, and a modest 30% chance of a brief shower. Expect mixed moisture all week, so plan accordingly and enjoy the milder evenings. We'll break down today's STM strike transit delays, preview the Canadiens' Captain Suzuki's Selk win, and spotlight Arthur's Nosh Bar. We will be right back. Watch the local sunset tonight at 6 p.m. for all your local Montreal news.
Today's biggest disruption comes from the STM strike. Service on both bus and metro is confined to peak periods only, meaning trains run only in the morning and evening rush and many routes sit idle. Riders who rely on the Green Line will find only the core stations staffed, and most bus lines are running a skeletal schedule. Expect longer wait times, crowded cars, and the need to walk farther to reach a functioning stop. On the roadside, traffic is generally clear. Autoroute 15 moves at a steady pace, and the major east-west corridors such as Boulevard St. Laurent and Rue St. Denis show no congestion. No accidents or construction are reported. Looking ahead to this afternoon, the limited transit schedule will remain in effect. Commuters should plan for extra travel time if they must use the reduced bus service and consider driving or cycling where feasible.
There are no verified listings available for today. And now here's Jason with sports.
Big night in Montreal as 2 Habs earn prestigious league honors. On Friday, the NHL announced that Montreal Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki captured the Frank J. Selk Trophy for Best Defensive Forward, while teammate Cole Caulfield earned the Lady Byng Trophy for sportsmanship and skill, according to CBC Sports. Logan Stankoven propelled the Carolina Hurricanes past the Montreal Canadiens in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final, netting one of 3 first-period goals as the Hurricanes secured a series win and moved on to the Stanley Cup Final, CBC Sports NHL reported Tuesday. In Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final, the Carolina Hurricanes advanced to the Stanley Cup Final by defeating the Montreal Canadiens, with Logan Stankoven scoring one of 3 first-period goals, CBC Sports NHL reports. The win ends Montreal's playoff run.
Arthur's Nosh Bar in St. Henry, a beloved spot where locals gather for casual plates and a pint, is at the heart of a citywide show of solidarity. After the language watchdog's recent crackdown on the English word nosh, neighboring businesses from Vintage Frames on Rue Notre Dame to Mandy's Salads on St. Laurent and Grill Nature on Atiwater sprouted the word on their windows in support. The simple gesture turns storefronts into a chorus of nosh, reminding us that Montreal's culinary scene thrives on community rather than controversy. It's a reminder that a neighborhood eatery can become a rallying point for cultural conversation. For Montreal, Arthur's isn't just a bar, it's a living piece of the city's inclusive spirit. And later we'll share how Montreal's Franco's Festival is gifting 10 free concerts this week, bringing music to every neighborhood. Stay tuned.
Coming up tonight at 6, the local sunset. Your neighborhood, your city, your news. From city hall decisions to the stories happening right on your street, we cover what matters most to Montrealers. Join us tonight at 6 p.m. on GMna for the local sunset, Montreal's evening newscast.
The brand new passenger terminal at Montreal Metropolitan Airport just opened, launching the first commercial flights from the South Shore hub. Officials say the state-of-the-art facility features 8 gates, modern amenities, and a promise of future international routes. Travelers will finally have direct service from St. Hubert, reshaping regional air travel. Carl Dumont is there. Carl Dumont.
Thanks, CJ Waterhouse. I'm standing on the polished concrete apron of Montreal Metropolitan Airport in St. Hubert, the early morning sun glinting off the newly painted terminal windows. Inside, a sleek glass facade opens onto a bustling lobby where travelers line up at digital check-in kiosks, their suitcases rolling over polished terrazzo floors. The scent of fresh coffee drifts from a pop-up cafe, and a family of 4 laughs as they watch the first commercial jet, a mid-sized jet, taxi toward the runway. Overhead, the PA system announces the inaugural flight to Toronto, and a crowd of local residents waves from the observation deck, phones raised to capture the moment. Airport staff in bright orange vests guide passengers through a streamlined security line, their smiles reflecting the pride of a community that has waited years for this service. For families who once drove over an hour to board a flight, the new terminal finally brings the world within reach without a long drive to Trudeau. Carl Dumont, virtually at Montreal Metropolitan Airport in St. Hubert.
On a crisp Saturday morning on St. Laurent Boulevard in the Plateau, the familiar red sign of Tim Hortons glows above a modest storefront where 3 longtime franchisees have gathered around a battered wooden table. They're not meeting over spreadsheets, instead they're sharing steaming mugs and a stack of handwritten notes from neighborhood families. Over the past few years, the chain's earnings in Quebec have slipped, and corporate has pointed to franchise operations as a factor. But here, the owners are turning that challenge into an opportunity to give back. They've launched a Coffee for Caregivers program offering complimentary drinks to anyone caring for an elderly relative and have set up a donation box that now holds more than 200 thank you cards from grateful neighbors. The moment that sealed their resolve came when a teenage volunteer handed them a handmade thank you card, its crayon-drawn smiley face saying simply, "You make our mornings brighter." That small gesture reminded them why they opened their doors in the first place. In the end, the community's warmth is the real profit they're counting on.
On Rue St. Laurent, just beyond the Saturday market where vendors display fresh berries and the smell of coffee mingles with the hum of conversation, a small crowd gathered outside the community center. Residents, a mix of longtime neighborhood families and young volunteers, listened as the province's minister announced that Quebec will appoint an independent observer to monitor the ongoing probe into alleged racism within the Montreal Police Service. The announcement was punctuated by a quiet moment when a 9-year-old girl, clutching a handmade sign that read "Justice for All," turned to her grandfather and whispered that she felt hopeful for the first time in years. The minister, noting that a public inquiry could be considered if the current investigation does not fully illuminate the incidents, emphasized the need for transparency and community trust. What makes this story worth telling is the palpable sense of renewal that rippled through the crowd, a collective belief that accountability can be paired with compassion, and that an extra set of eyes can help bridge the divide between police and the people they serve. We'll keep watching this developing step toward a more inclusive Montreal.
Thanks for joining us, Montreal. From the curious marsupial that slipped onto the South Shore to the stories that matter, we appreciate your viewership. Stay tuned for tomorrow's lunch break, where we'll bring you more insight and the voices of our city. See you then.